This is Ethan, and I'm here with Dave, and together we are Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 246-inch.
On this episode, we interview Cris Shapan, who did graphic design for Weird Al Yankovic Story, as well as worked on Weird Al's music videos, Handy, and Whatever You Like.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
It's a podcast about Weird Al.
It's Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Seriously, the whole podcast is about Weird Al.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
You don't have to listen, but we're glad you are.
Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
What a character that Joel Peskin was last episode, huh, Dave?
Oh, absolutely. He sure was a character. Who knew that Weird Al's longtime clarinet player is actually a saxophone player?
I love how he listened to the Bohemian Polka right then and there during our interview, along with the YouTube ad that played before it. So funny.
That was amazing. And speaking of interviews, Ethan, I forgot to ask you about your time interviewing William Shatner live on stage in Ashland, Kentucky last month.
Oh, Dave, it was a ton of fun, of course. I just love getting to spend time with someone who's mentioned in 2 Weird Al parodies.
I remember you telling me that he said he wanted to go to a Weird Al concert with you. Did you tell him about Weird Al's new Bigger and Weirder tour?
You know what? I did tell Bill about the new tour, and I reminded him that he said he'd go to a concert with me.
And?
Well, Dave, as you know, William Shatner is currently 93 years old and turns 94 in March. So with that in mind, he told me, let's see if I'm still breathing in July of next year before we make any plans.
Well, from all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, we hope William Shatner continues to live long and prosper.
You know, I think it's just about time for what's happening in Weird Al-related news.
Last week, Jimmy Fallon announced that he is releasing a star-studded brand new album called Holiday Seasoning on November 1st.
While the contents of the 16-song track list have not been announced, except for 3 previously released songs, on The Tonight Show last week, Jimmy Fallon mentioned that Weird Al would be featured on the album.
Other artists on the album include Meghan Trainor, Ariana Grande, Megan Thee Stallion, Dolly Parton, the Jonas Brothers, The Roots, and Justin Timberlake.
The album will have 2 standard physical versions, including a CD release and a red and white peppermint swirl vinyl. But that's not all.
Jimmy Fallon HolidaySeasoning.com is selling an exclusive deluxe Blizzard vinyl that will come autographed with a sticker sheet, a holiday table topper, and a pop-up vinyl gatefold.
Jimmy's website is also selling an autographed CD, and then exclusive to Target is a ruby red edition of the vinyl. All of these editions are currently available for pre-order while supplies last, as well as on digital music platforms for pre-order and pre-save.
While they have not yet announced the name of the track or tracks that Weird Al will be featured on, we can only hope it is the Night Santa Went Crazy Extra Jimmy version.
Weird Al will be a guest at the annual Huntsville, Alabama Comic and Pop Culture Expo.
Well, I guess Al just wanted to go to Alabama, where that kind of thing is tolerated.
The convention runs from April 25th through 27th, 2025, and Weird Al is scheduled to be there all 3 days.
For more information, head on over to hsvexpo.com.
Weird Al is once again lending his very talented voice to another animated character.
That's right, Weird Al voices Mayor Van Helsing in Mighty Monster Wheelies on Netflix.
The show premiered this past Monday, October 14th, and according to Weird Al himself, he appears in a zillion episodes.
Wow, imagine how much time it takes to make a zillion episodes.
I mean, we've been doing this for like 5 years, and we're only on episode 246-inch.
I am so glad that we did not name our podcast Dave and Ethan's Zillion-Inch Weird Al Podcast.
Okay, so intern Frank ran the numbers for us, and by his calculations, a zillion is somewhere between 1 and 27, as there's only 26 episodes currently available of this new series.
Our close personal friend, OG Weird Al superfan, and the mastermind behind the Alcon conventions, Amanda Cohen, was recently on Good Mythical Morning with Rhett and Link.
She's part of an episode where comedians from different generations compete against each other to see who is the funniest.
We are thrilled and not at all surprised that Amanda was correctly deemed the funniest. And we're also thrilled that she mentioned Weird Al during one of her bits.
She talked about how she always has to write AI as A.I. so people don't think she's talking about Weird Al.
I don't know how relatable that was to Rhett and Link and their audience, but it sure was relatable to Ethan and me.
From all of us here at Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, congratulations to Amanda Cohen on that PSM GMM appearance.
And attention listeners in and around Brooklyn, New York, tonight there is a Weird Al drag show.
The show is happening tonight, October 16th at 10:30 p.m. Burrito time at the venue called Come On Everybody.
If you are able to attend, please let us know all about it on the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, 347-SPATULA.
This episode is brought to you in part by Vegan Burrito Restaurant Burrito, home of the 2-pound double wrapped in a quesadilla Burrito, and Wizard Burger in Albany, New York. Come on down to Burrito and your Burrito and Wizard Burger for mouthwatering loaded, dare I say beefy vegan burgers from Albany to Uranus. Burrito and Wizard Burger feed the hungry with out-of-this-world plant-based real food, always vegan style. Visit burritosquare.com and wizardburger.com to order ahead.
And finally, there is a celebration of life for our dear friend Joe Jaffa coming up in the Los Angeles area later this month, quite appropriately on the 27th of the month.
While Dave and I are unfortunately not able to attend, we want to make sure anyone who hasn't received an invitation that had a close relationship with Joe has the necessary information to attend.
If you would like information for the celebration of life, please email frank@2000inch.com and your information will be passed along to the Jaffa family.
We are very excited for you to hear this week's interview.
So without further ado, please take it away, Ethan.
Dave and I are absolutely thrilled to welcome to the podcast an absolute master when it comes to graphics and visual effects, especially when it comes to comedy. He's worked on numerous Weird Al projects, including music videos, Weird the Al Yankovic Story, and even TV shows like Barry, Baskets, and Tim and Eric. We're so excited to welcome the Deluxe Fuxley himself, Cris Shapan. How's it going, Chris?
Oh, me? Is it my turn? I'm fine. It's good to, That was a wonderful intro and so unwarranted.
No, absolutely warranted.
We're not keeping you from any TV shows or anything, are we?
Oh, well, no, except maybe the Riflemen or Hawaii Five-0 or, this is, a great time of day to have antenna television. So. I love watching Chuck Connors gun down people right and left in the name of being a good dad. So.
Well, Chris, we're really excited to have you on. I know we've been wanting to have you on for a while now, and we're glad to have you on and be able to talk about all these really fun projects you've worked on with Al and with other comedy greats.
Well, I'm glad to be here, and of course, it's nice to be home after touring with the Formula One circuit this year. And visiting all those wonderful countries, and driving the third car for Ferrari. But,
of course, yeah.
The management at Ferrari said, "Hey, we need a good graphic designer in one of these cars." Of course, they called me. They went straight to IMDb and said, yeah, well, this guy worked at Tim and Eric once, so it's enough to be world famous.
Well, yeah, we agree.
I'm glad to be here, and I'm glad you guys apparently think so highly of me. I would not tend to agree, but who am I to argue, right?
Well, you've worked on a number of projects with Al, as I mentioned in the intro, and I'm really curious how you got your start as a graphic designer and how that led to meeting and working with Al.
It all started when I was about 3. So, that was where, my folks said, you got to join the union. And I looked into it, and, I saved up from the lemonade stand for a few years, and Bob's your uncle. But, I've been drawing all my life, and truthfully, as a kid, I wanted to be an animator. I trained, growing up in L.A., my art teachers were all ex-animation people, and I got to train with some really wonderful people. But by the time I was of a ripe enough age to go to work, animation was dead. So, it was just a lull in the industry, and there was nothing. And this was the late 80s.
Okay.
Until Ren and Stimpy came along, nothing was happening, and then that just everything blew up again. But by that time, I had embraced the Macintosh and decided to go in a different direction. So yeah, I have a background in animation, but my initial work was all for ad agencies here in LA doing movie posters and movie advertising. And
oh, wow.
Yeah, and I did that for a while. And hey, listen, go back to 1993, find that poster for Surf Ninjas. And you'll see my first color work. So,
oh, wow.
But yeah, I worked on about 100 different national and international campaigns during the time I was doing it, and got burned out, and left town and did corporate stuff for a bunch of years, where again it was all based on Photoshop stuff. And did automotive illustration for a couple of years after that, and found my way back to L.A. and after answering an ad on Craigslist, I found myself at Tim and Eric.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, it was pretty strange, but yeah, I got hired to do Tom Goes to the Mayor.
Now, I first heard about Tim and Eric actually through Tom Goes to the Mayor. I remember flipping through channels, landing on a very weird, not even fully animated thing, and it's all blue and white. But then I saw Bob Odenkirk show up, and I was hooked from then on.
Yeah. No, the man was magical to be around, and he spent many an afternoon having sandwiches with our crew, and
oh, wow.
everybody adored the man, and always have and always will. He just is brilliant, and when he's on, he's a joy to be around.
Yeah. Wow.
But yeah, that truthfully, when the show came on, I didn't care for it very much. I thought they were being kind of lazy, and then I answered that ad, and it was like, oh, please don't be Tom Goes to the Mayor. Please don't be Tom Goes to the Mayor. And I got there, and it was Tom Goes to the Mayor. It was like, well, they're not going to want me anyway. My stuff is too jokey, and as it turned out, they Tim and Eric didn't hire me so much as the art director hired me, but a point on, I mean, God, we had a great time doing that show, and a lot of fun to work on for a lot of reasons, and a brilliant, wonderful crew, many of whom have in the next 15 years gone off to do really amazing things. So then I continued to work with some of those people and be friends with some of those people, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, and it was a weird cartoon, but it was kind of a anything goes situation. So everybody was spitting in the soup at once. Every now and then, Bob got a spoonful of spit that he liked, and everybody was thrilled. So it was a great experience, and after having been away from Hollywood for 10 or 11 years at that point, it was great to be back and be doing that kind of work again.
Wow. So is that really what led into working on all of the other great comedy TV shows and projects you've been a part of?
Yeah, it kind of is. Before I did the posters, I had another career when I was a young man where I was a greensman. I don't know if you know what greensmen are, but but they're the guys who carry the plants on and off the set.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, so I think my greatest work as a greensman was I delivered a sweet potato growing in a mayonnaise jar to the Tracy Ullman show.
Amazing.
Well, we had to get a 5-ton box truck to drive it up there to the set, but
Wow.
well, that's Hollywood, man. You wonder why those movies cost $200 million. It's because you need a teamster and a box truck to move a sweet potato.
All the money goes to sweet potato transport, apparently.
Well, yeah.
Wow.
I mean, and it's and the sweet potato was getting double time. So I don't know what his paycheck looked like that week, but I heard he bought a Corvette. So.
Definitely an upgrade for the mayo jar.
But yeah, the Tim and Eric thing was great because, again, God, it was a really free environment in that we could pitch anything. It didn't matter how ridiculous or stupid it was, and everybody truly appreciated stupid.
Right.
So, of course, if you've seen the show, that's evident, but yeah, it was a wonderful group of people to be with, and after Tom, I was just like, yeah, man, I got to do this for the rest of my life. So, this is the only thing I can do and not be, fired for saying the things that I say.
Yeah, you get a raise if you say the things you say.
Exactly. But yeah, that after that came Awesome Show, and that was kind of my first taste of sketch comedy. Mm-hmm. And, which was really huge at the time, and I was really happy to be a part of that too. So, and that's where I ended up actually meeting Al.
Oh.
He came in to do Uncle Muscles on Awesome Show, and
right.
I shot some stills and told him that I was a fan going back to his very first night on Dr. Demento. Where, I actually recorded his live appearance there.
Oh wow!
Oh wow!
So, yeah. I recorded Dr. Demento every week with my little cassette recorder, and that night I was just kind of taken with. He's about 2 years older than I am.
Okay.
But I was just like, man, this guy's recording his songs in a bathroom to get the reverb, and he has that crazy silly energy. And I think from moment one, it was just like, yeah, I don't know what the hell this guy's bringing to the table, but I like it.
That's incredible.
Yeah, and I listened to that recording a million times over the years, and memorized the songs he sang, and so when I saw him all those years later at Tim and Eric, I name dropped Belvedere Cruisin'.
Wow, that's an oldie. Yeah, what was Weird Al's reaction to hearing Belvedere Cruising?
Well, I didn't just name drop it. I actually, dropped a whole verse of it for him, and
oh wow,
said, and like, I recorded that off Dr. Demento, and after the photo session, he came and found me in my office, and he was like, really, you remember that? And I was like, yeah, man, you just, from that night on, I was a fan.
Wow.
It's hard not to be. But we talked for a while, and of course, but we're both from the same part of Southern California, and we reminisced about a lot of the places that you used to be able to go here and do things at, and we were kind of contemporaries, so it was nice. We hit it off, and within a few weeks, he contacted me about doing a little bit of animation for to back his stage show.
Oh wow.
Yeah, there was a thing that where he was doing Albuquerque at the time, and it built to a big finish, and I animated a big widescreen thing with mariachis and fireworks and giant, neon lettering and stuff like that for the end of the song.
Oh, awesome.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah, man, it was a lot of fun, and he was just so nice about it. One of the things that people like me judge people by is what kind of notes they give you when you're working on something.
Yeah.
And of course, everybody gives you notes, and sometimes they're just notes for the sake of notes. Like, yeah, can you move that just a skosh to the left? Yeah, I got to re-render the whole thing. Yeah, just a skosh. So, every note he gave me made perfect sense, and I was just like, okay, I love this guy forever.
Mm-hmm.
Huh.
And then that led to Whatever You Like, which again started as some animation for his stage show. We did about 1.5 minutes of it, and then he got a hold of me 6 or 7 months later and said, "Hey, can you do the whole song?"
Oh wow, I don't know that I realized that.
Oh wow, yeah, I didn't realize that either. That the stage version came before the actual music video. Wow.
Yeah, because the song was part of a montage. So part of a what do they call it? When you
medley.
Songs and yes, a medley. Thank you. So it was only that he only did 1.5 minutes of it during the medley. So
Wow.
So he came back and said, can you flesh that out to, whatever the song is, like 16.5 minutes or whatever.
I don't know if it's quite that long, but
No, God, it felt like it, believe me, but yeah, he asked if I could flesh it out, and it's kind of too bad because I think I would have done something different if we'd done the whole song from the outset. But I was kind of locked in on a look and feel from the stage show.
Oh, okay.
So we just dragged it out.
It's a really, really great video. I mean, there's so much in it that reminds me of Tom Goes to the Mayor that I can see where you pulled from for that. Like, definitely like the trailer park and the shops definitely give me that feel. But there's so many like Easter eggs and in-jokes, and it's just so complex and so funny. I really love that music video.
Well, thank you. I remember at the time there were a lot of people who were like, oh my God, it's so ugly, or oh my God, it's so depressing, and it's like, well, but it's a reflection of our ugly, depressing world, and that's what the song is about. I mean,
right.
My God, the man is proposing to a woman by offering her top ramen.
Right.
But yeah, that doesn't say Beverly Hills to me. But yeah, I remember reading people saying, whoever made this ripped off, Tim and Eric, and just being furious because it's like, no, that was me too.
Right.
I'm ripping off me. That's the.
It's your style. It's not a ripoff.
Right.
Yeah. Well, and listen. To be fair, there were other artists, and they were great, and we worked really hard to create that horrible, depressing world on Tom. But
right.
It's just kind of like, you're. Look at my name, and you'll see it's in the credits. In all of these places. But that's something I've dealt with my whole career. So, this thing I'm doing with Dana Gould, I had people, this guy's ripping off Fuxley.
Which is your banner.
Which is you.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, it's like, I guess we're using the same thing, but it's me.
Right.
So
Right.
It should be okay. But yeah, people just simply don't know who I am, and I don't mind that, but I do when they say you're ripping off yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, back to Whatever You Like. I just it was fun creating it because everything was dismal and awful and third rate. And I think my favorite part of the whole thing was there's a little scene on a freeway where Al is bouncing along in his Hyundai.
In the Grand Theft Auto parody.
Yeah, yes, and he's getting passed by a mail cart, a 3-wheel mail truck, and a little kid on a plastic car, and everybody. Oh, and the Oscar Mayer Wiener wagon.
Right.
We call it like the Knockwurst mobile or something, but
the worst wagon or something. Yeah.
Right.
Yes. But yeah, I really enjoyed doing that. And honestly, I was kind of still learning After Effects, the program at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So it was the most complex thing I'd ever done, and So I learned a lot. I had a lot of fun doing it.
How much of the video is Al saying, Chris, do your thing, come up with what you want for the song that you're hearing, and how much is Al saying, like, hey, I want it to be a Grand Theft Auto parody, I want the Wienermobile to come by? I'm really curious about the balance there.
Well, I'm kind of glad you asked that, because that was one of the things that made it so cool, was Al was entirely hands-off.
Wow.
He just...
Oh, wow.
Well... And again, we had kind of established the look with the stage animation.
Right.
But, he was basically like, yeah, here's a recording of the song, and I'll talk to you in a few months.
Wow.
I mean, I worked with him. He got sent stuff, and every time I do a new block of stuff, we'd go over the artwork. But yeah, he absolutely, and I've heard this from other people who have done videos for him. He absolutely was just like, do your thing.
Wow, that's so cool.
That's incredible.
And again, very few notes, and the only ones were just like, yeah, can you string this out an extra few seconds, because I think this should come in here. And it's like, oh, yeah, no problem. I think there was one where, there was a pizza, and it was getting ingredients on it, like a Hot Wheel and a battery, and, whatever else I could find around the house. And I think at one point I was going to put a used condom on it, and
Oh, wow.
I think that was one where it was like, yeah, let's, do the Hot Wheel. That's good.
Yeah.
But yeah, he was just, he was so good about it, and I'd call him up, and he'd look at the latest, test render, and he'd just, go, oh, that's so good, that's so funny, that's great, and that was that. So, yeah, he was really a pleasure to work with, and I was thrilled, because when it was over, he said to me, now you're part of the Pantheon. It's like, oh my God, I'm in really good company here, because the people who have done his videos over the years are, some of my favorite artists and animators in the whole world. So,
yeah,
it's nice to be rubbing elbows with, people like Bill Plimpton.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, it's just kind of, or what's that guy's name? Jib Jab.
Right.
Ernest Jib Jab. Ernest, I think Ernest Frederick Jib Jab.
Yes.
Yeah.
Always the Frederick.
Because he took over the business when his cousin died. Anyway.
I think he's commonly known as Ernie to his friends, yeah.
Yes. Old Ernie JJ to his friends,
Chris, I've watched this video for the first time in a long time, and I was just dying laughing. And there's so many references. I know we're not going to be able to get into all of them, but just like the incredible number of Easter eggs and everything in this music video they just make me laugh. Like, I'm so glad I got to watch it, and I'm going to have to go by frame by frame, because you put so many great jokes into this music video. I really encourage our listeners, if they haven't watched it in a while, to go check this out too, because I was dying laughing watching it again for the first time in a long time. It's a question I do have for you, and I don't know if I ever knew this answer or if I ever found out this answer, but throughout the video, Al is obviously one of the main characters. There's another character in there, a woman with blonde hair. Who is that woman?
She is not a person. She's a composite of 6 or 8 different women.
Oh, okay.
So, one eye is from one person, another eye is from another, the lips are from, Reese Witherspoon, I don't know. But,
oh, wow.
But I did that specifically. Well, listen, we really did that video on the cheap. I had to make everything, and we kind of, since there were going to be other people popping up, and it was just, we need fake people. So, Sony wasn't paying for any stock.
Right.
And they certainly weren't buying any celebrity photos. So it was just like, well, okay, this, strange-looking woman is going to be, one of our heroes. And well, and if you notice, her face is always basically, looking the same way, because, it wasn't like we had a turnaround of her or something.
Right.
So
Right.
I just had to find a way to make it work. But I've seen people, well, I haven't been to the video for a while because it was 10, 12 years ago or something. But
Yeah.
I remember
Right.
people on YouTube were trying to figure out who she was. Just laughing and going, God, if I saw a real person with a face like that, I'd be terrified.
I always thought she kind of looked a bit Madonna-esque. Did you have that feeling at all?
I didn't, but it could well be. I'm not quite sure what Madonna looks like, but I thought she was an elderly woman, but that's just anyway. But I really kind of didn't have anything in mind. It was just like, let's make something and get it on the stove. So and got all the other people are composite people too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I was going to ask about them. So everybody, I guess, except for Al, is a composite here.
Yes, and
okay.
And I don't know, there may be some real people that we just stole off the internet and put in there or something, but I don't think there's a whole lot of faces. So.
Okay.
For something like this, are you ever tempted, or have you put yourself in as a cameo?
I really don't. I do occasionally, put friends or people I know in somewhere, but no, I never. Again, I can't stand looking at myself in the mirror, so I don't want to force that on innocent people outside. That's kind of like and it may be a false impression, but somewhere in my mind, people spot me in the crowd and go, "Oh, that guy." So, it's all about Al, isn't it? So, I never do that. I never sneak myself. I've had directors I've worked with who insist on putting me in front of the camera. I've done lots of walk-ons and cameos on the shows that I've worked on.
Yeah.
But usually, there's one director friend I have, and the running joke is usually I'm the guy who gets up and walks out of the room. So I've done that on like 4 different shows where somebody's making an earnest plea and I look at my watch and leave. So,
that's great.
Actually, I was doing a show. It was a real short show, but it was Hannibal Buress.
Oh yeah,
and yeah, it was a real sweet guy. But one day he came up to me on the set and he said, "Hey man, I saw you in that sketch on the Kroll show the other night." And it was one where I got up and walked out of the room. I'm the go-to guy. So, but I was amazed he picked me out of the scene.
Wow.
Well, thanks, Hannibal. Yes, that was me. And
then you got up and left the room.
That's right. And I'm doing this one for free.
I know we probably don't want to go through every single Easter egg, but a few I wanted to just point out were,
sure.
Like you basically need a magnifying glass and the pause button to catch some of these, but like there's a reference to Pico and Sepulveda in the video.
Mm-hmm.
There's a dare sticker, and then the license plate is "To Be Stupid." It's just like there's so many great little things that are you really, really have to be paying attention to find.
Well, one of the things we discovered at Tim and Eric was that, and again, we were just kind of into, digital TV existed, but DVRs and DVD recorders and things like that were kind of a new thing when we made that, and we were really surprised to find out that the audience were pausing it and looking at all the little things in the scenes. So that was a fairly new thing, and so I started doing that with everything I did, and since I knew Whatever You Like was going to go on YouTube, it's like, oh yeah, people can watch this frame by frame. So yeah, I just loaded it with stuff, and it it also helps too. That was one of the fun things for me. Is like, look, I've been a Weird Al fan for a long time.
Yeah.
So I can just sprinkle this with a million different things because they're all just popping to my mind when I'm working on it. So yeah, that was kind of fun, and it was kind of my gift to the viewer, and it's like, yeah, this thing really is ugly and depressing, and this is my gift for you sitting through it.
Did Al call out any of the Easter eggs when he was reviewing the footage?
Oh, you mean did he notice them?
Yeah, like was he like, oh my god, I love that you put CNR on the cash register, or, something like that.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, well, of course, again, he actually got stills of the art too, so so he had a chance to really look at things, but yeah, it was. I mean, again, doing the whole thing by myself just gave me the opportunity to put anything anywhere. So like when they're in the bagel shop and there's an old there's a rainbow sticker on the glass on the counter that says Weird Al, and that's we had a radio station here in LA, KLOS, years and years ago, and that was their bumper sticker. And every concert they sponsored, every kid wanted to get that rainbow sticker with the band name in it and put it on their car. So there's things like that where it's like, yeah, even, the Weird Al fans aren't going to know what this is. This is real specific. But yeah, there's a few things in there where it's like, yeah, no, this is so specific. Not only do you have to be a Weird Al fan, but you have to be me.
I love that.
So, this is taken from my life, thank you very much. And, if other people notice it, great. But yeah, it really, I got to go all over the place in that video, and it was a lot of fun.
Well, I got two follow-up questions for you here, Chris.
Yes.
The first is regarding Weird Al. He's got several different facial expressions. How did you get those facial expressions from Al? Did you approach him and just say, I need a bunch of facial expressions? Did you ask for specific ones? And the second question, totally unrelated, is there's so much animation in this video. It looks like if I were trying to do this, it looks like it would take me years to do. How long did it take you to put this video together?
Well, in answer to your first question, you mean like the singing head, right?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, no, I just had him in a chair in my living room, and we put up a piece of green paper behind him, and I just had him enunciate, syllables until I had enough. And actually, a friend of mine, I keep saying I did it all by myself, but while I was making the artwork, a friend of mine, a gentleman by the name of Jordan Kim, who was also part of Tom Goes to the Mayor, and somebody I worked with really closely on Yo Gabba, he animated the speech for me. So that I would have a finished thing of him singing the song that I could just drop into every scene.
Oh, cool.
So he just animated a 4.5 minute thing of Al doing the syllables, and
oh wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, we just we shot that next to my dining room table. So and then as for how long did it take to make it, in 2010 when I was making it, I had a much older Mac at the time, and not the kind of memory we do now, and it was really a grind to render it in high definition, but it did take about 3.5 months to make all the artwork, wow. and then animate it and sync it all up to the music. So and I think 9 weeks of that was render time. So, but yeah, it was a long haul, and it was Sony, who we were doing it for, they weren't being particularly helpful, which is typical for a lot of jobs like that, but it probably could have been done a little bit quicker, and in the end there were some things that Al and I liked, but Sony didn't.
Oh, really?
So we had to go back and change some things. Yeah, they were minor things, but it's like, you see that cup he's drinking the soda out of, and it says soda in the Coca-Cola font, and you got to go change that.
Really?
So, we don't want to use the Coca-Cola font, so have it say soda, make it Helvetica. So, there were things like that, legal.
It wasn't any major jokes or anything. It was more just like legal kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think there was something at the end when all the products are going by in front of the storefronts. And there was something that we thought was a funny joke. And Sony came back and said, you can't do that. And it was a mug with the floating head of Jack Lord that said like the Jack Lord fan club, and like it was their official mug. And they made me, it's like no, don't, Jack Lord is sacrosanct, don't. He's dead, but his hair still has real powerful representation. But yeah, and yet there's one that's Ernest Borgnine paper towels,
right.
And they had no problem with that at all. I don't know. it was like arbitrary.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a long haul, and it was a lot of that. Well, again, God, usually you're either doing the artwork or you're doing the after effects, and when you have to do both, it's really a grind sometimes, because you'll be halfway through something and you'll go, oh yeah, I need that guy with the cucumber for a head, and you got to go back and stop and make that, and that sort of thing. So but yeah, overall, just getting to work with Hal on something like that was a lot of fun. And of course, after that, I got invited to concerts, and I started getting Christmas cards. And wow, I'm part of the family now.
That's so cool.
Awesome.
Now, the video on YouTube is in 4K. Did you render it in 4K, or was it something you had to go back and do, or was it upscaled?
Oh, whatever you like?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I didn't. I haven't seen a 4K version of it. So if there is one, yeah, they just upscaled it. Because high definition was a new thing at that time. So that was one of the first things that I did in 2K.
Okay.
So yeah, I think if I'd have rendered it in 4K, I'd probably still be rendering it today.
Yeah, I was curious. It is listed as 4K on
on
YouTube, so I was curious about that.
Clearly, either they're lying or they don't understand what 4K means. They think 4K is a phrase like turbocharged, where you can just apply it to anything.
So following whatever you like and joining the family, as you said, what was your next project with Al?
Well, gosh, let me see. I'm trying to think if there was anything between that and Handy. I think the next thing I actually did with him was Handy in 2014. Mm-hmm. So, and that was the album where he was releasing a video for every song on the album.
Right.
I mean, it was just an absolutely, blatant attempt at winning as many awards as possible. So I think, I think he set out to win Grammys and Video Music Awards and, a Golden Globe or two, and he wanted to break every record there was to break. So that one came together really quick. I was working on Kroll Show for Comedy Central, mm-hmm. and I had to do the video as an extracurricular thing. So it was just something we slammed out as quick as possible, and that one. Al basically, you'd have to call him the director, because he blocked out the entire song. He knew what he wanted to see.
Oh, okay, interesting.
But he also, gave me carte blanche as to how it came together and what those visuals were. Mm-hmm. So, which made it a lot easier and made it go a lot faster. And I had a lovely young lady who I used to call my niece, even though she wasn't.
Okay.
So we used to do that so that people wouldn't think there was some sort of hanky-panky going on because she was half my age. But I used to let. Well, truthfully, I was at one point engaged to her aunt.
Okay.
So there was a reason, yeah, but yeah, she assisted me on it, and she directed the live action stuff.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, okay. she was indispensable. But yeah, we just set up a couple of IMAX and just put the whole thing together as quick as we could, and handed it off to some sort of production company who rendered it and then claimed it as their own.
Ah.
Yeah, yeah. But I'd say I made about 95% of that, and I'm being generous.
Well, so it sounds like it came with like a bit of an outline, but was there back and forth to fully figure out the full idea, or was it basically just using that as a template?
Yeah, I was basically using it as a template, and again, because he was making so many things at once, and the record release was coming up, so we really did have a hard deadline. So I think I don't know about the other videos, but I'm assuming he did his best to streamline the process for everybody. Mm-hmm. That's the kind of guy he is.
I'm curious about Eddie Pepitone. Is that someone you brought in, or was that someone Al had approached?
No, Al brought him in, and I actually know him from elsewhere, and actually just saw him again for the first time since then, and got to go up and say, "Hey, Eddie, I was the guy who exploded you off a toilet." Oh, but yeah, he's really a neat guy and very funny and nowhere near as overwrought and horrifying, as he is in his stage persona. Right. So, he's when he's not on, he's surprisingly normal. But yeah, that was another thing about that video that I really loved was getting to use him. It also saved me the trouble of having to make another bizarre woman character like that. I don't know if I can do that again. But yeah, Eddie was great, and I was there at the beginning of the video stuff, but I had to run back to Sunset Gower from where they were shooting in Glendale, and Ibbot, my niece. She oversaw the whole thing, and I think did a great job. It's
a great video, and one thing that I noticed when I was watching today is when Al is mowing the lawn, or Mr. Handy is mowing the lawn, he kind of bumps and you hear a cat meow, and I was like, is that in the song itself? So I went back and listened to the song, and it's not in there on the album. Is that something that you added? Is that something Al added? I was really curious about that.
Well, we need to pause the interview right there, but we will be back next episode with more from the wildly talented Cris Shapan.
And if you don't already, be sure to follow Cris Shapan, Deluxe Fuxley Corporate Archives on Facebook for his hilarious artwork.
Oh, wow, that sound means we have a voicemail on the 347 Spatula Hotline, the official hotline of Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast.
Well, all right, intern Frank, let's hear that voicemail.
I've had a problem lately. I drag my wife to Weird Al concerts. She drags me to Dwight Yoakam concerts. There have been way too many Dwight Yoakam concerts compared to my Weird Al concerts. But we've got a new tour. We need more. We need more. Bye.
Well, thank you very much for the call. I'm sure that your wife will love the yet-to-be-announced Dwight Yoakam retrospective that we suspect will be prominently featured in all of Weird Al's concerts moving forward.
Well, sounds like we've got yet another call on the 347 Spatula Hotline. All right, Frank, let's hear this voicemail.
Hey, David, Ethan, it's Michael. With the 8-piece assembly, I was wondering if we are going to hear Hardware Store or Genius in France. Anyway, best of luck with tickets, and very excited.
Thanks for the great call, Michael. Excellent question. Do we think Weird Al will play Hardware Store and Genius in France with the new larger band on this upcoming tour?
Well, we certainly hope so, but we're not quite sure if he will have the time to do so with the yet-to-be-announced Dwight Yoakam retrospective that we suspect will be prominently featured in all of Weird Al's concerts moving forward.
This episode is brought to you in part by Discover Darwin, promoting tourism in Darwin, Minnesota. Not only is historic Darwin, Minnesota beautiful, it's also spooky.
This Thursday, October 17th, marks the return of the Hollow Wine bottle painting at Darwin's own Jomas Hill Vineyard and Winery.
The event is hosted by the Paint Factory, and they are, quote, so excited to return. That's 6 O's, so you know they really are so excited.
And this time, they will be painting Halloween characters on wine bottles.
Sign-ups are open online right now, but spots are limited, so register soon. That's in all caps with 3 exclamation points and 6 O's, so you know it's important.
Cost of the evening is $45 each and includes 2 primed wine bottles.
And we know what you're thinking, but sorry, they are empty wine bottles.
But you do get to choose your 2 favorite characters from the 6 choices that are available.
Also, please remember, no free class cards!
We're not sure what that means, but it's preceded and succeeded by 3 asterisks, so it's probably relevant.
So visit Darwin, Minnesota on your next spooky bottle painting expedition. Discover Darwin, more than just the twine ball. And after you visit Darwin, Minnesota, be sure to attempt to visit www.discoverdarwin.biz.
Dave and Ethan's 2008 Weird Al podcast is brought to you absolutely free thanks to our incredible sponsors, Burrito, Wizard Burger, our very own Jackson Scoggins, Discover Darwin, and our very own Kenneth Crazy Ken Gwinnett. Our podcast is also supported by everyone else in our Patreon family, with special thanks to our very own close personal friend level Patreon supporters, Ron, Adriana Banana Yugovich, Weird's Dream Date Nancy, Scotto Brothers, Allison, Dana B. and Beaker, Javier, Ajax, Zach Casper, Zeb, Yanko Chick 38, Devlin, UH Jeff, Casey Killingsworth, Kev Messick, Blair, Matt T, and also thanks to Andrew B, Chad Kelston, aka Metal Al, Patrick Gaffney, Aaron R, and Summer Woods, as well as everyone else in our pretty stinking majestic Patreon family.
If you enjoy our spooky Weird Al podcast as heard in the Weird the Al Yankovic Story commentary track, please consider supporting us at patreon.com/2000inch. There are awesome benefits like getting your name right on the podcast, your own private RSS feed, which gives you early access to each and every bonus episode, and the self-satisfaction of doing something important with your otherwise pitiful, meaningless, spooky existence. And don't forget to check out our official merchandise over at shop.2000inch.com. All proceeds from purchases go directly towards supporting our fine podcast.
We love hearing from our listeners and other Weird Al fans, so be sure to join our Facebook community over at group.2000inch.com and visit our Discord server for even more riveting Weird Al and Red Rump the Goody related conversations. You can find both of them linked on our website, as well as information about past episodes and guests over at 2000inch.com or weirdalpodcast.com.
Keep up on new episodes, podcast news, and events by following at 2000inch on Facebook, X, Threads, and Instagram. And be sure to subscribe everywhere you listen to podcasts so you don't miss a single episode. Not only does subscribing help the podcast, if you don't, the yet-to-be-announced Dwight Yoakam retrospective that we suspect will be prominently featured in all of Weird Al's concerts moving forward will never happen. And then the caller's wife will be very sad. Do you want that on your conscience? Do you?
Plus, we also love it when we receive voicemail via our official patent-pending 27-hour-a-day podcast hotline, 347 Spatula, as seen in the Illustrated Al, the songs of Weird Al Yankovic. That number is 347-772-8852. Give it a call or a text, and you might even hear your message in a future episode.
Thank you once again to Cris Shapan for joining us this episode. We'd also like to thank Lee K. Seitz, Samantha Evans, the first Spatula caller's wife, Dwight Yoakam, Michael Wilkowski, and our very own Claire Walsh. Thank you to the Grammy Award-winning Jim Kimo West for our incredible podcast theme song, and thank you to Weird Al, as this podcast probably would not exist without him. Thank you also to John Bermuda Schwartz, Steve J., Ruben Valtierra, Jay Levy, and the irreplaceable Joe Jaffa. And a big thanks to all of you, our loyal listeners, subscribers, Patreon supporters and sponsors, and everyone else who makes our podcast possible.
Make sure to tune in next episode for the exciting conclusion of our interview with the very talented Cris Shapan. Until then, thank you for choosing Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast. And until next time, remember to gill and chill, keep listening to Dwight Yoakam, and stay cheesy.
Dave, I was looking at Jimmy Fallon's new website for this holiday seasoning album that Weird Al's performing on, and I have a few questions for you about it.
Ask me the questions, Bridgekeeper. I am not afraid.
Now, as Weird Al collectors, we're obviously getting all the vinyl editions and the CD for our collections, but Jimmy also has other album-related merchandise, like an ugly sweater, a jigsaw puzzle, wrapping paper, oven mitts.
That's all true, but that is not a question.
I'm getting to it.
That is also not a question.
Okay, fine. So, Dave, do we need to purchase all of this extra stuff for our Weird Al collections?
That depends.
Depends on what?
Well, how many pieces does the puzzle have?
252.
Well, considering we're only on episode 246-inch, gotta pass.
So, should I ask you again in 6 episodes?
That was Dave and Ethan's 2000-inch Weird Al podcast, episode 246-inch.
Just 6 episodes till I ask Dave about the puzzle again.
Hey, Eddie, I was the guy who exploded you off a toilet.